Everyone. Good evening, everyone. We're here for the November 7th Audit Committee meeting. Apologies for starting a little late. Our executive session ran over. We have the Bonadillo group here tonight, and we're going to receive their report. So I figure we should start with that, and then we can let you go, so you don't have to stay for the rest.
Great. I'm Joe Hero. I'm a principal. I did not do your audit. Alan Walter was the partner in charge of it. He, I think, has two other meetings tonight. Kylie was the manager. She's on vacation, so I'm filling in. I've been here, I think, a couple other times presenting to you under the similar circumstances. I handed it out to you. It's a PowerPoint. I won't go through the whole thing. I know we're short on time. I'll hit the highlights of it, and then you guys have had the financial statements. If you have questions, we can talk about it. I'll just cover the scope of our services. We did an audit of the financial statements in accordance with government auditing standards. We also issued a report on internal controls and compliance. That's at the very back of the report. We issued a separate report on the extra classroom activity fund, and then there's a required communications letter. There's a couple slides there that talk about that. Nothing unusual in that letter. This year, we implemented GASB 87. That's in there. That's required to be communicated. There's no accounting principle this year. That's all that goes in that letter. If there was difficulties with management or with the audit, we would note that in there also, but there was no issues there. So in summary, we anticipate issuing an unmodified opinion that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with GAAP. Upon board acceptance, that's the highest level of assurance we can give. If you're familiar with the report, if you looked at it last year, they changed the format of it. They added some more words. The opinion is now the first paragraph. It used to be the last, towards the end. Most important part, though, so they put it at the beginning this year. That internal control and compliance report, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal controls. There were no compliance issues. Extra classroom activity fund, that will be unmodified also. And we'd be remiss if we did thank the business office and everybody else that helped us get through the audit. One other thing Alan asked me to touch on is the single audit of federal expenditures. We still have to finish that, but we'll get that done. Not due technically until March 31st, but we're looking to get it done next month or so.
That, the ECAF.
Yeah.
That's like, I think, I remember hearing that like only 5% of school districts had that as a unmodified.
Unmodified, yeah, and we've kind of changed. We used to issue all, I don't want to say all, but most of them always had like a modified opinion because of cash receipts. Last year with GASB 84, they required that to become part of your financial statements for the district also. So we kind of changed our methodology a little bit, but yeah, if there was an issue with cash receipts still where we couldn't verify what was collected versus what should have been collected, it would be a modified, but it's unmodified. So yes, that's very good to have that.
I think this is the first year I recall unmodified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take it.
Yeah.
It was, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Nothing to do with it, but I
Congratulations.
will pass it along.
It's a tough, I mean, it's a tough thing. It's students, it's advisors, they're not accountants, it's to give them an idea of how things work, and they're not always looking at internal controls. Then with COVID hitting, it just kind of, everything kind of went by the wayside the last couple of years, but it looks like it's back to normal where it should be. So that's good. I'll just touch real quick. You more or less have two sets of financial statements. You have a government-wide, which is full GAAP, and then your fund financial statements, which is modified accrual. You're probably all more familiar with the fund financial statements and the general fund. But people get nervous when they look at that statement of net position, that first financial statement, because you have a deficit of $56.8 million. You see that. Well, you have another post-employment benefit liability of $87.2 million. It's an actuarial number. There's no assets that can offset that. New York State does not allow you to fund it. So there's that. You take that away, there goes your deficit. Then we've got this year, you've got a net pension asset in ERS and TRS. They total $10.4 million. They've been liabilities the past few years, flipped this year to assets, so the pension funds are fully funded. Your net position decreased $3 million, again, mainly due to your OPEB expense. There's some things that's offset it, but you had OPEB expense this year of $7.1 million. The pension gain, as I said, going from a liability to an asset, about $2 million, and a couple other things to get to the three. And I'll just talk about your general fund budget. Favorable budget variance, 2.4 million. Your expenditures, you have a favorable variance there of 3 million. Your revenue a little short this year, 680,000 compared to budget, but not bad. Overall, like I said, 2.4 million. And I have some highlights there, if you want to go into the fund, what changed in the funds, but the big thing was your capital projects had a big deficit, bonded it, you got your proceeds, got rid of the deficit. That was the big thing there. School lunch fund, everybody was eligible, so your federal aid went up, your sales went up, kids were back in school full time, so that kind of was a good year for school lunch. Going forward, I would imagine you and everybody else are gonna have the same struggles you've always had with school lunch, but for now, it's a good thing. Those are more or less the highlights. I mean, if anybody's had any chance to look at anything or if you have any questions.
It looked like our debt service went up a little bit relative to last year, but,
It did because we bonded,
right,
so that the new payment comes on. And it'll modify here and there. I think it actually goes down a little bit next year. It's very odd, but it's one of those little things that we actually planned on and knew about. So.
right. And then I was looking at the interest rates for our debt.
Yeah.
And there's only like one or two that kind of jump out as being higher than the rest, but most of it is at a really low rate.
Currently, yes, and it's a good thing that we did bond when we did.
Exactly.
The most recent bus and vehicle purchase came in at, what was it, 2.95?
2.95.
When they were usually right around 1 or 1.5. So you see some increase there. That is all aidable, of course, so.
Yeah, the only question I had there was, have we ever refinanced our debt? That's something that school districts ever do or consider?
They do. Mostly it was because of reevaluation after 10 years that the state did to kind of offset some of their liabilities on building agents. Our next bond will be callable. We actually discussed that in the forums. So after 10 years, we'll be able to take a look at it, and then after 5 years, every 5 years thereafter.
All right, anyone have questions about the audit report?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No need to stay
Okay.
unless you want to.
No, it's okay.
But thanks also.
I appreciate you all.
Archie, who's doing the,
Thank you.
Jim, are you going to give the brief presentation during the?
Yeah, I'm going to get them.
Just making sure we-
Okay, great, thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Told you I was gonna give you this.
Okay, great. All right, we should be able to move through the rest of the agenda pretty quickly. Item number 1 was reviewing the minutes from our September 12th meeting. Anyone have comments or questions on the minutes? Okay, claims auditor reports. Francine, are you ready?
yes,
Thank
I go from here or
Is that mic on? I would say come up.
come up?
Yeah, just so we make sure we get you on the recording.
So I don't know if everyone has a copy of my summary I did, but there have been 6 exceptions since the last meeting in September, totaling $7,695. One other issue of $255. Out of the 6 exceptions, 4 are from administration, 1 from transportation, and 1 from the kitchen. So I'm showing that the administration was more timeliness of some bills. And I just think it's just because we have
New people.
yes in there. And a few things were from input errors and some instances where there was like a minimum order charge where that was a lot higher than the actual item we ordered. So we're trying to figure out that. And then transportation is just trying to get, seems like whenever we have some type of, or like a program, a maintenance program, the second year, I feel like they think that they don't need to get that renewed, and get approval, so that was one exception. And the other one was in regards to getting the oven set up, the electric set up. The other issue I had was sports pins for the different sports. I'm reading somewhere that the gifting of public funds used for flowers and pins is prohibited. So further review, I think, needs to be done, maybe,
Policy.
yeah. Public funds should be used for that purpose.
Okay, yeah, that's a good, I think we can probably, we'll talk about taking that up in policy, see what we have out there on it.
And then, I just had some other items that I probably won't go over tonight, but in regards to like policy processes, maybe the contracts that I'll give to Jim and he can relay. So that was it for tonight, if anyone has any questions.
No, thank you. And thank you for your service. I saw your
Oh,
Yeah.
well, no, thank you
So
for,
sad to see you go. Thank you. Okay, all right. We provided the function level document. We're going to continue to post that. I don't think it was posted with the other materials, but we will continue to post that so that it's available to the public.
Under the audit discussion, it's actually posted, it was put in the wrong area. That's,
Oh, okay, perfect.
but it is public right now. We'll get it shifted to the right.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Anyone have questions on that? Perfect. All right, and then our last item is school lunch profit and loss. Thanks, Christine.
Okay, well, the audit, the bond deal was currently correct. We did lose $15,999 in September. Reimbursements were down and our actual sales were down now that we're doing the regular lunch program. We were down 3,200 lunches and 2,600 breakfasts.
I think we're just gonna continue to see it and we'll have to manage knowing that that's what's gonna happen, right? I don't,
Essentially, yes.
Like stack of paper bags,
stock in paper
Brown pa-
bags,
yeah,
brown bags.
brown paper bags.
Yeah, I don't wanna encourage kids to drink coffee. I know they're doing it anyway, but that's, I mean, that's one way to prop up the budget, but I don't,
If
I don't
and when
think it's,
the capital project passes and there is a full-fledged kitchen in the elementary school, Jim and I are anticipating an increase of revenue coming from that area. Just because of the fact that you'll have more options and choices down there for kids to purchase and utilize. So we're imagining you're gonna see an influx of buying. From that area. Besides
yeah, it's the slushies.
Yeah.
next thing I think,
Do we feel like we helped all the kids that needed paperwork now to get free lunches have done that? I know that sometimes holds people back.
So Paul has called everybody who was previously on the list, and also there's been the self-submissions that we have. So we're doing our best. We are seeing our numbers increasing still, correct, Jim?
Yeah, a
So-
little bit.
We are seeing our numbers, we were 11% last year. I think we're still
13, somewhere around.
13, so we're moving up on those. So our families are taking advantage of it. In comparison to 10 years ago, we were at 1%,
I've seen,
4%.
I've
Thank you,
seen,
Karen, for
I've seen some districts implementing policies to provide free lunch or free breakfast across the board.
So the districts who do that are low, high needs districts. So, for example, Lansingburg, since they have 75% poverty, they're eligible to do that. We could do that, but all that money would have to come out of the
We'd
general
have to
fund
fund it.
because none of that would be able.
Under the regular rules, you have to be at least 40% low income to even qualify for the community eligibility program that we were all under. So,
Are we anywhere close to that?
We're at 13%.
All right, something to keep in mind. All right, I think that concludes our agenda for the evening. Our next meeting will be December 5th before our next regular board meeting. And we're done. Thanks. Thanks, Jim.